This meeting is being recorded.
Alrighty, shall we get started? Okay. Good evening and happy Friday, everyone. So welcome to the webinar. And today I'm going to share with you some useful communication skill, which will help you professionalize yourself in the eyes of your teacher, admission officer, and even future employers, which we all will get to at the end of our as the ultimate goal of our career. Alrighty, before we get started, let me introduce a little bit about myself. My name is Tran, and I am currently a student coordinator at Spark Prep, and my main role is to help students manage and navigate their application process. I also make sure that the student, the parents, and the coaches at Spark Prep are communicating well and everything goes smoothly throughout the process. I am currently hold a bachelor degree in international relations. I also minor in public relations, and I hold a master in global marketing management. Both of my degree are from Boston University. So today there are three main parts, and the first one I will talk about is presentation skill, followed by interview skill. The second part will be about communication via written pieces like email, and I hope that you will learn something and take away some experience and apply it into your current learning experience and future career. Now let's get started with the first two parts. Presentation and interview skill. I guess some or maybe less than many of you here have done presentation and interview before. But just a quick reminder is that the ultimate goal of the presentation and interview skill is to help us successfully deliver our intended messages. And that being said, we have very, very limited amount of time where we can say what we need to say and also impress our audience. And so how can we make it impressive? For each presentation, there are many parts that factor into a successful one. There are slides, there are your outfit, there are your body languages, and even how you interact with your audience. First of all, I will talk about the slide. To prepare for the presentation, you need the slide. That's basic. And I suppose many of you here know about pop music and K-pop industry. And imagine the presentation as your stage performance. And who are you in that performance? Are you a sub-vocalist, or are you a musical instrument player, or are you a lead vocalist? I think the best answer would be the lead vocalist. The stage is yours. And your slide would be the sub-vocalist. What does that mean? It means that you need the slide, but the attention should be on you. So how do we make our slide an effective sub-vocalist? I have this rule that I follow since college, and I actually learned this from my public relations course, which is 1, 5, 10, 20, and 30. I'll say it again: 1, 5, 10, 20, and 30. 5 number. And in this slide, I'll bold the number so you can easily see and follow. And if you plan to go into communication field such as advertising, public relation, or marketing is in business, but a little bit about marketing, do take notes of this because it's super helpful and it's very useful if you do pitching presentation. So first of all, rule number 1, 1 to 2 images. What does this mean? It means that you only have 1 to 2 images show on slide at once. I want to stress the word at once because you can have as many as 10 images per slide, but however you designed it or however you add the effect, I just want to see the maximum of 1 to 2 images. Why? Because if you add more than 2 images, the view is not that great. And for the people that sit so far away, they cannot see it easily. And 2 images at a time can help you interpret your speech better, and it's also not so cramped, not so busy on the slide for everyone to see. Rule number 2, 5 to 6 words per line and 5 to 6 lines per slide. What does this mean? You can, in fact, it is not a fixed number. You can be flexible, but I wouldn't suggest to have more than 10 words per slide or more than 10 lines per slide. Why? Because it will be super busy, and your audience will be busy to read all the information on your slide. And also the wording for each of the lines should be carefully chosen so that it still deliver your message, but it doesn't tell everything. And the word should be big enough for the people for at the end of the class or the end of the room can read. Rule number 3, keep your presentation around 10 slides. Again, this number should be flexible because for this presentation, I made like 15, 17 slides in total because I have like 30, 45 minutes to talk to you all. But because most of your presentation, I guess, are within the school community. And so that being said, not many of these presentations will go over 20 minutes. So in terms of timing, if you spend 1 to 2 minutes to talk per slide and you have 10 slides, that makes the 20 minutes already. And that brings us to number 4. Keep your presentation within 20 minutes. Why? Because the attention span of your audience is around 15 to 20 minutes. And if you go over than that, you will lose that attention. And also because you do the presentation in your classroom and there will be other students, there will be other team. The teacher may allow you more than 20 minutes to present what you prepare. And again, more than 20 minutes, the audience will lose their attention. And at that point, your presentation is like a lullaby carrying them to the dreamland. And if they don't pay attention to your presentation, they cannot ask you question. And at the end of the day, you feel discouraged because you prepare so much, but the reaction is not what you expect. And the final rules, which I mentioned briefly before, is the font size. In Microsoft PowerPoint, or if you use Apple, it will be Keynote. The size of your font is slightly different from what shows in the Word document or Apple pages. So if you use a slide, if you use a font size smaller than 30, your word will be too small for the people at the back to read. And again, after all, the slide is your sub-vocalist. So you still want your audience to see, to read. In case they miss a few seconds in between their presentation, they can read the slide and catch up with your speech. But it shouldn't be the main point of the presentation. The presentation is for you to say, to explain, and to shine. And bear in mind that this rule is super simple, 1, 5, 10, 20, and it's the rule that you need to carry on when you make your slide presentation. And let's move on to the content of your presentation. So we talk about the format, we talk about the template of the slide. At this stage, it means that you have done a great amount of work in doing the research for your presentation, or you have finished your essay or research paper, and now it's time for you to present what you researched. So how do you squeeze all of these content into several slides with very little space? For example, if you write a 10 pages paper, how do you squeeze all of those 10 pages content into 10 slides? And the answer is don't show all of them, tell. I guess many of you here have heard about the writing type called show not tell. And for the presentation, I would like you to do the exact opposite. The most important rule of a presentation is do not read from slides. Why? Because your audience can read just as well as you. If they can read everything from your slide, they don't need to listen to you. And that's not what we want. So how do we make our slide content better? I divide this into two parts. The first one is do and the second one is don't. First, let's talk about the do's. First thing, when we get started, and also when I get started, I have an opening slide. What kind of information do you put here? With your name, the title of your presentation, your group name if you work in group, the class that you do this presentation for, and the professor or the teacher of this class. So many of you may guess, why do we put instructor names here? So in colleges, and especially in America, one subject can be taught by many professors via many sections. So we have to make sure that we are in the right place at the right time, submit our work to the right person to be graded. The next one after the title slide would be the section slide and the subsection heading. I also apply this rule for today. I have a section slide, which is presentation and interview skill. And why do we need section slide? Is this to make our presentation more well structured and it's easy for the audience to follow. And I also add the section slide as breadcrumb at the bottom right of the slide so that the audience know which section I'm talking about and they can easily follow my presentation. When you do your presentation, that reflect your paper or research paper, bear in mind, in the research paper, you may have used resources, data, images, graphs. I would like you to include all of these information. Why? Although we show, but mainly we tell, but it's important that you include these visual items so that the audience can easily understand the process of your presentation. How do you get to the result? And if you do include images and graphs, make sure you explain them, clarify them, and use them well to support your idea. And most important thing is don't just leave your image on the slide and not touching them, because it's like you put a painting on the wall and you walk by it every day. Images and graphs actually have catch audience attention very well, and it's better than the boring word on the screen. So you should not use them wisely. And in the presentation, you want to make sure that you appear professional. And how do you appear professional? It is to make your slide professional. Not only the way you talk, but also what you show on it. That said, you should use your bullet points. Why? It makes the content visually coherent And I suggest that you limit it to 1 to 2 types of bullet points so that it's not very destructive for the audience. Um, Another important thing, especially in America, colleges and school are very sensitive to plagiarism. So if you use any outside resources like a journal or a data from an organization, you should include the resources in your presentation at the very end. That make your reader and your professor know that you are not copied or steal it from somewhere and put it in your slide and make it yours. Um, and finally, just like how we have an opening slide, we should also have an ending slide where we open the platform for any question that our audience may have, and make sure to thank the audience for spending the time to listen to your presentation, prepare the question to ask us, and congratulate us for finishing our presentation. And that's the do's. And how about the don'ts in your presentation? What shouldn't we do for it? Like I said, your presentation might be the final product and final summary of your essay or research paper, and you should be so proud of yourself, and you definitely want to show the world what you achieved in your paper, or at least show it on slide. But that's not a very good tactic. Why? Because your slide will be too wordy and it's too boring, and the audience will spend the rest of your presentation just to read from the slide. So this is not the time for you to be pretty and brag about your great essay on your slide. Do not transfer your essay into slide and try to squeeze as much information as possible in any way. Again, a presentation is for you to tell, not to show. Just pick out the main point or even the subheading of your paper and put it on the slide. Spend the rest of your presentation to talk about it and explain it, tell the story about it, so your audience still know about your paper, about your essay, and not having to read from the slide. Next one is the use of video clip. Today we have TikTok, we have Facebook Reels. All of these short little clips are very interesting, are very exciting, and are very fun to look at. But using a video clip on the slide, you should be super careful. Why? Because at one point it can be very effective to support your presentation, especially if you make the video on your own. However, it shouldn't be the major portion of your presentation. Why? Because people will be too focused on the video clip and they forget who is talking in that presentation. And it may take too long and it may eat up all the time you have for the presentation. So unless your class is about making the video, you should be very careful with using the video. And if you do use your video, try to limit it within 1 to 2 minutes maximum. Funny and cute icons or emoji. I have seen so many presentations of high school students in Vietnam using funny GIF file, and even in America, some freshman students use funny and cute emoji in their presentation. It's quite funny to look at. It's cute, right? But the worst thing about this icon or emoji is jeopardize the whole professionalism of your presentation. This cute icon has nothing to do with your content or what you are talking about. Some students have argued with me that this emoji can help them express their personal feeling about the presentation. My response for them is no. They don't have to at all. you're standing there in front of everyone as a person doing the speaking and the presentation. Why don't you show the real personal emotion, your own body language by yourself, right there, right then? You are the real person there. Why do you need to use all of these fake emojis just to show an expression? It's useless. And last but not least, be careful with the colors and the fonts. Why? Too colorful is very distractive. A presentation with consistent font may not score you a better score, but a presentation with 5 different fonts or 10 type of colors spanning across the presentation may make you lose your point. So you can use different color to highlight the main point in your presentation, but make sure that it's consistent and try to limit it to 3 to 5 colors max. In terms of fonts, you can use 2 different fonts per slide, one for the heading, the second one for the body, and that's it. Don't go over 2 type of font per slide. It's very distractive, and it's also hard for the audience to read and hard for you to read as well, because you need to look at the slide to see where you are talking. And when you encounter a different font, you naturally make a pause there, and it's become an awkward presentation. So we have talked about the format of our presentation, the content of our presentation. Now we will go into talking about how we wear to our presentation. This is where you can score the professional point. Why? Because the way you dress show how serious you are for this presentation. And if you are a high school student and your school have uniform, great, wear it. But if your school doesn't have a uniform, my only suggestion for you is to stick with business casual type of clothes. So what is a business casual type of clothes? They are long sleeve white t-shirts. Your white t-shirt should be tucked in. Don't leave them hanging around. Second, pants that cover your ankles. You don't want to show your bare ankles to the world. Third, if you're in a very cold place and the weather is not on your side, wear sweater, cardigan, and blazer. Blazer is highly recommended for both men and women, because it's also the way people in company dress for their work or for their presentation, and so it makes sense for a student to dress for their presentation. For women, if you decide to wear skirt or dress, make sure that it's C-length or longer. And I highly recommend you to wear stocking if you do decide to wear a dress. It's for safety reason, and you cover what you need to cover. For shoes, I recommend closed-toe shoes. Women can wear high heels, but I suggest that you shouldn't wear stiletto. Why? Because it's painful to stand in them for the long period of time. Unless you can stand the pain, I wouldn't recommend that. So flat high heels that is 2 to 3 inch high is highly recommended. For men, I suggest that you wear tie for a presentation like business class presentation or term paper presentation. These are the occasion that is more formal than your daily assignment presentation, and ties should be wear. If for men, please wear your socks. It's not very nice to let the world see your bare foot in a dress shoe or your bare ankle. So make sure you wear your socks. And in terms of color, you can wear any color you want, but I suggest for a student to stick with um, black, white, or navy. These are the natural and neutral color for the student, and they are pretty friendly and familiar to all of the teacher and even the people who artwork. And if you decide to choose a different color, make sure to stick with neutral one. For example, you wouldn't want to wear a flashy red dress to your presentation. It's too distractive to the audience, and it's it look like you are going to a party instead of doing a presentation. And if you are in business school, there is a very high chance that your professor will note directly in the syllabus that you need to wear black and white for your presentation. Just a side note for you to keep in mind. And stay away from wearing too many accessories, especially flashy ones, because they are distractive to both you and the audience. For women, if you decide to wear makeup, keep it simple. This is a presentation, this is your class. You are not going to a party. So this is not a prom night. Keep it simple and keep it as genuine as possible. So now that we prepared the slide, we wear the right outfit. What should we do with our presentation? I have repeatedly said it before, but I will just remind you one last time. You shouldn't read from the slide for whatsoever reason. What you need to do is to tell your story, to tell your progress, and how you get started with this presentation, what the result that you get, and how you achieve or accomplish your goal when you started with this assignment. Why do we need to tell story in a presentation? It's kind of weird, right? But I don't ask you to tell your personal presentation, personal story. I ask you to tell the story of how you get to the result. Why? Because as human being, most people are very curious about story. And when they're curious, they will pay more attention to your talking. And when you have the attention, you just basically achieve with this presentation. And I also mentioned this before, but you need to explain your image and craft. You put them there for a reason. And do remember why you chose to put them there in the first place. Um, you need to explain it to the audience why you put it there. And it doesn't matter if you add it to make your presentation look better or help the audience visualize your presentation better. It's just weird to leave them hanging. So if you put an image or a graph on your slide, at least spend a sentence or two to describe them and explain them. At the end of the presentation, make sure you allow the platform for the audience to ask questions. And this is a little tricky. Why? Because you have a limited amount of time to do your presentation. And you may not have enough time to answer all of the questions the audience asks. So what can you do? You can tell them that you will answer them in person after the presentation. And also make sure that you are prepared to answer any question that your teacher asks, because they will grade you on how you answer them. And finally, do thank your audience for your attention throughout your presentation and for any question they have for you. And if they have any constructive suggestion for you, you are more than happy to receive them and improve your presentation next time. A tip for your presentation: you should use your body language wisely and interact with your audience. So many of the questions that I received from you all is how to manage your anxiety throughout the presentation. It's natural to be nervous and it's natural to be panicked on the spot. But regardless the reason, try to make eye contact with your audience. If you are too shy or too panic, choose to look at the friends that you know well, or even choose to look at your teacher. Do not look up to the ceiling or look down to your feet. And because it's very disrespectful to your audience, it's rude. And don't fold your arms or hand because it's make you look very uncomfortable and lack of confidence. I suggest that you make eye contact and use your facial expression sometime throughout your presentation. Why? Because it shows that the topic that you're presenting does matter to you, and it makes the audience feel empathy with your presentation. Also, having an expression will also make your presentation more persuasive because the audience will feel that you make your presentation personal to you and matter to you, so they will care more about it. And next one, if you are anxious, take a deep breath. Why? No one is born a good speaker from the very beginning, and it's okay for you to feel panic. When you do feel panic, take a deep breath. So before this webinar, I took 5 deep breaths because I was a little nervous speaking to you all. But after that, I feel confident and I ease my nerve. And if you do during your presentation, if you need to take a pause and try to refresh yourself from the panic attack that kicking in, don't feel that it's an awkward pause. Why? Because this pause can help your audience take a break from all of the information that you're trying to say and absorb and digest the information that you just said before. This is a win-win tactic. First, you have some time to refresh your mind, to restart yourself. Second, it helps your audience to take a break from the flow of information and digest it. Do keep an eye on time because you have limited amount of time to do your presentation. And if it goes too long, your teacher might cut it in between. So when that happens, you cannot fully present your work, and it's just a waste of all your time and effort preparing for this presentation. Finally, I received a question: how do I improve my presentation skill? It's pretty easy. Practice can make the difference. After you make your slide, you should go into writing your script and memorize it. The key point that you want to mention in your presentation, make sure to memorize it and make sure you practice your presentation before the real one. This is the strategy that I also used for today's webinar. I wrote the script for all of my slides. It took like 8 to 10 pages, but I still wrote it, and then I practiced it, and I time myself when I speak about it. And why does it matter? Because it's helped me adjust my content, and it's also helped me adjust my speaking speech so that I'm not talking very fast or I'm not talking very slow, and I still have enough time to tell you all the information that I want for this presentation. So that is the last part about the presentation. And before we move to the next one, I will spend 2 to 3 minutes to answer a few questions that you have when you signed up for this webinar. The question is, can you give me some advice how to control my speaking speed and avoid feeling nervous? Let me tell you, I know that I have been speaking a little fast from the beginning of today. Why? Because I'm a little nervous. And my advice for you and for myself is to practice. Practice by yourself, practice in front of the mirror, or you can even practice with your family member or friends and ask them for the advice. While you practice, make sure you time yourself and make sure that you highlight the content that is important or not very important so that you can adjust accordingly when you do the real presentation. And during your practice, it's okay that you go a little over time. Why? Because you tend to speak more quickly in a real presentation. So when you go a little over time during your practice, it means that you will have or you may have enough time in the real presentation. And also, if you practice very well, you will be very confident and you will be less nervous during your presentation. And again, if you feel like you are being too nervous and the panic attack are kicking in during your presentation, it's okay to take 2 to 3 seconds or even 5 second break, pause during your presentation, take a deep breath and restart again. The next question I received is, I don't have the technique to attract other people's attention and how to approach them naturally. Sometimes when I start my presentation, I look at them and they feel asleep. Let me tell you a story. Many times when you do your presentation, your classmate may also do the presentation in the same day, in the same class with you. If they finish the presentation before you, they will feel so relaxed and they tend to ignore what you said. They just finished their assignment. But if they have their presentation after you, they tend to be nervous and worried, and they don't have the mind or the feeling to listen to you. So how do you attract their attention? My suggestion is to keep an eye contact with them. It's very important. Keep an eye contact. Why? Not only does it show your teacher that you are professional, but it also gives your audience a friendly warning that you are watching them and you know that they don't listen to you. And it also make them more aware, more conscious, and they will pay attention to your speaking. And during a Q&A question, if you don't receive enough information from your classmate or audience, why not take an initiative? You can just ask them directly. You can ask 1 to 2 students in your class directly. What do you think about your presentation? Any question they have or any clarification they need from you. And to improve your presentation skill, I suggest that you practice a lot. Practice make the difference. Prepare the script, practice it, adjust it, and ace your presentation. The last question I received from you about presentation is the difference between online and in-person presentation. For these two, the main difference is the missing of interactivity in an online presentation. Why? Because people are looking at the screen. They don't look directly at your face. And you don't look directly at their face because you're too busy looking at your slide. So you lose that interaction and you don't know if your presentation is being carried out very effective or not. So how do we solve that problem? We need to make our presentation as interesting as possible. We need to tell the story. We need to grab any attention our audience may have and keep them involved. How do you keep them involved? Ask them questions at the end. Ask them for any clarification. And make sure that at the end of the day, everyone listen to your presentation. There are some takeaway from your presentation and you get a good grade. Next one, I will move to talk about your interview skill. This is the skill that many of you have questions about. And first and foremost, I just want to clarify that an interview is similar to a presentation. Why? Because it's also your stage to tell other the topic that matters to you. And the only difference between interview and presentation is in an interview you don't have a slide. You don't have any written material to look at. You are just by yourself with the interviewer. So you need to appear, you need to dress, you need to speak very professional so that your interviewer know that you're serious about this interview. So in an interview, the old time question is tell me about yourself. It doesn't matter if it's a college interview or it's a job interview. Tell me about yourself is always in the interview. And this is the chance for you to shine and build some connection with the interviewer. For this specific question, you should make sure that you include as many information as possible. But you need to choose your information wisely. What do you need to include in this question? Your education background, your career background if you already have work experience, your interest. What makes you decide on this particular choice so that it leads you to this interview? And also tell your story. For example, when I do my self-interview about myself, I would say, hi, my name is Tran and my story is I graduated from Boston University. I am working as Spark Prep as student coordinator. And that is my story. And people are curious about this information. So you don't have to worry if you have their attention or not, because they will care about it anyway. So after your short presentation about yourself, interviewer often ask you about your strengths and weaknesses. And let's start with your strength first. This is your time to brag about yourself. It's no time to be shy. Be confident and show them what you've got. It's not just any kind of strength or any kind of brag that you randomly throw out there. You need to back up your strength point with evidence, such as your academic or employment achievement, any rewards that you already got, and also try to create the link between your strength and what your interviewer is looking at. Um, it's also important to know that to distinguish between bragging and exaggerating. Do not dramatize any story of yours. The interview, most of the time, they are very sensitive to fake story. And if they sense that you are telling something that is surreal, they may have a bad impression about you. For weaknesses, I suggest you to be honest, but not intimidated. So in short, don't make your weaknesses become your Achilles heel. Instead, turn them into room for your improvement and show it to your interviewer. For example, you are an introvert and you think that it's your weaknesses and you feel uncomfortable having a conversation with someone you just met. Tell your interviewer about it, and also tell him or her how you prepare a lot for this interview and how you practice for this interview so that you don't appear awkward or panic to them. Don't worry if you lose point for your weaknesses because no one is perfect. Your interviewer also have their own weaknesses, and I also have my weaknesses. So it's not the time for them to grade on your weaknesses. It's just natural, and you should be genuine and answer this question. Don't be too humble, but make yourself look like you are lacking confidence. Just be honest and tell them what you are lacking. One thing that you can make your weaknesses less weak is to build connection with your strength and your opportunity to improve. For example, I am very bad at public speaking and I practice a lot, but I think that my strength is being patient. So being patient and practice a lot will help me improve my public speaking skill in the future. And that means that I can contribute to your company or to a certain club in the school. That's how you build a connection with your weaknesses and strengths. Um, and if you have an interviewer who is an admission officer, it's a must that you do intensive research about your interviewer. What does that mean? For example, you have to, if you have an interview with your admission officer, you will do research about the school. You will do research about the major that you intended to study. And you need to build the connection between your strength and the major that you choose or the school's characteristic. If you do an interview for a company, research the company, research their project, research their competitor, and the position that you apply for. You need to show your interview that you really care about them and you can contribute your strength to their community and their community can help you be better and make up your weaknesses when you are able to join them. Uh, I said before that is to be genuine and informative, but not too humble. Why shouldn't you be humble? When you are too humble, it looks like you lack the confidence. And when you are lacking the confidence, your interviewer may question your seriousness in this interview and your seriousness in applying to their community. Um, and similar to a presentation, you should always dress professionally. And if you do an online interview, make sure that you keep your background clean. So clean your room, clean your house or whatever, and make sure that you're sitting in a quiet place, background clean, dress nicely, and turn on your camera and talk to them comfortably. Um, if you have an interview offline, make sure that you choose somewhere quiet and have enough privacy so that other people in the surrounding don't interrupt your interview. So finally, when you do an interview, it means that you must have passed 1 to 2 rounds of application, such as college application or job application. It doesn't matter, but it means that they read your profile and they interested in you and they want to know more about you. So be confident, be yourself, smile and shine, and make the stage yours and impress them. So we talk about presentation, we talk about interview, and we need to make sure that we are managing our anxiety well throughout the interview or the presentation. It's natural and it's normal that you feel stressed out. Trust me, when I interviewed for Spark Rep, I was just super nervous as any of you here. And at the time, I already have 8 years of working experience, but I was still nervous. And it's okay, it's natural, it's normal. But how do you manage these emotions so that they won't interrupt your presentation or interview? First of all, in case you may have a panic attack, your mind is blank, you can control your body, no word come into your mind, close your eye and focus on your breathing. 2 to 3 deep breaths will change your life. in that moment. And also learn some strategy to relax your muscle, to relax through visualization. What does this mean? It means that you imagine that you are in your comfort place, you feel relaxed and you enjoy the surrounding you imagine, and it helps you ease your nerve and feel less panic. And also, uh, if you know this technique, it's called five finger relaxation technique. It helps you restore your body power, and it keeps you in the reality, in the presentation, and more focused. As prep, we have different personal development skill class in which we help the student to do their stress management, time management. With these skills, they will be able to do to go into an interview or go into a test less panic and less nervous. And if they do feel nervous or panic, they have the skill to relax and restart and reactivate um, their mind to continue with what they are doing and ace the process. Important note for you: always go to bed early and get enough sleep before any interview, any test or presentation. Drink enough water and make sure you eat your breakfast. Feeling hungry, feeling starving, feeling thirsty during a presentation is not a very good idea. Um, So that's it for the interview. And I received a few questions. The first one is, where in an interview, whether I should show my personality or I should introduce myself as the person the interviewer expects. I would say be yourself. I'm sure, just for your information, the interviewer may have interviewed hundreds and thousands of people before you, and they know so well the standard, and they know so well how these interviewee try to impress them with a standardized answer. You don't need this answer. You just need to impress them about who you are. So be yourself, tell your story, and it's also an exciting part for the interviewer to know that there is someone like you who try to be different from the flow of other hundred and thousand of the applicants trying to please them. So be yourself, tell them your story, and be confident about it. There's nothing to be shy about your story. Everyone has an amazing story. um, the next question I got is how to answer the question, tell me about yourself effectively. So like I mentioned before, some information that you should include in this answer is your education background, your career background, any current activity or position that you think matters and you think your interviewer care about, your interest, what makes you decide on this particular choice that lead to this interview, and keep your story informative, concise, and try to avoid any redundant details such as um, I studied abroad when I was 8 because my parents wanted. They don't care. They want to know how you experience this study abroad uh, progress and how you grow from it. That's what they care about. And I have a question that what frequent question the interviewer in college admission ask? Um, there are some questions that they always ask is, tell me about yourself, tell me about your strengths and weaknesses. Why do you choose this school? Why do you choose this major? Why do you choose to study this? How do you get here from your education background? What are some activities that you are doing and you want to continue doing in college? And yeah, and don't be shy and tell your story. Be honest about it. If you don't have any amazing activity on your list, it's okay. Tell any activity that you join, because anything is unique to yourself and unique to that applicant. So your interviewer don't grade you on that particular experience. They grade you on how you show them, how you demonstrate yourself to them. The next part I'm talking about is